And following that story out of Connecticut, the 250th celebration continues with a look at this day in history. July 25th marks what is believed to be the first railroad accident in the United States. It happened near Quincy, Massachusetts in 1832 when 4 people were thrown from a vacant car.
The victims had been invited to watch the process of transporting large, heavy loads of stone when a cable snapped, throwing them off the train and over a cliff. One man was killed and the others were seriously injured.
This was at a time of rapid railroad development, covering nearly 3,000 miles across the U.S. by 1840 and a national network spanning 30,000 miles by 1860.